Welcome to Business Innovators Radio, featuring industry influencers and trendsetters sharing proven strategies to help you build a better life right now.
Welcome back to another episode of Business Innovators Radio. I'm your host, Marco Salinas. And today we're doing another episode of our Business Networking Influencers podcast. We've got a very special guest, and his name is Marco Flores. Marco is actually a certified public accountant, and his company is called MFCPA, and he helps a very wide range of business owners, small, medium, and all different types of industries, investors, pretty much in and around the San Antonio area. Marco, thank you so much for joining us today. Welcome to the program.
Yes, absolutely. Thank you, Marco, for having me.
Absolutely, my friend. Let's go ahead and dive straight into this thing. I've got some really good questions to ask you because, I want to know about your story. I want to learn a little bit more about you, how you came to be a CPA. I think a lot of people would be interested in knowing how you got to that point and your story, because we all have a story, and it's what makes our stories unique that make them special. So the first question that I have for you is, looking back, were there any signs that or clues that you might have had the CPA gene in your DNA?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, when I look back on my childhood, when I was a kid, I was really into baseball, and I was really into collecting baseball cards. And it's funny because, most people collect cards just for fun. It's cool. You get your favorite players or whatever. I actually used to read the backs of the cards. And so I'd be looking at batting averages. I'd be looking at all these numbers, right? And I was really interested in that stuff. But of course, when you're a kid, you don't know what accounting is. I never heard of accounting. I don't know what that was. But I think I've always had a love for numbers. And, I was always pretty, pretty good at math. And really, accounting is not just math. It's really more working with numbers and making the numbers make sense. And
Sure.
So I think there's the numbers aspect to it, but then there's also like the organizational aspect. And so I've always been kind of sort of an organized person. Like I like things to be where I know they are, where I can find them, that type of person. So I think I've always been pretty inclined and pretty talented at working with numbers. So, when I got to college, I wanted to be a physical therapist. That was kind of my initial reason for going to school is I wanted to do something in the area of, sports or something like that.
Sure.
And I ended up kind of just falling into accounting, and I kind of realized, hey, this has kind of always been what I'm good at, and I can make money doing it. So why not?
Definitely, man. That's really cool. I love how you mentioned the trading cards. You and I are about the same age, and so we grew up, I think, in the glory days of first of all, sports in general. I think the late 80s and the early 90s were just like a really, really amazing time for all sports in general. And I think that's really what fueled the trading card thing, right? So that was a big thing for me. And I attribute a lot of my business owner entrepreneurial things to those days, because that was my first time that I would do like trading and negotiating with the cards.
Yes.
But you were more interested in the stats in the back, man, because your brain operates a little differently as a numbers guy, as a money guy, as a CPA guy, whereas I was more interested in just trying to, make a buck off the thing. So I think that's really interesting. And it's kind of cool how those old things like that can somehow be traced to what we're doing today as adults. In your case, perfect example of how that lined up. Now, I want to go a little bit of a different direction, and maybe you can kind of tell us a little bit more about the person that you were before you became a CPA. Some people, once they enter into their profession, it's very different from the life that they were living prior to that. So I'm just kind of curious, Marco, like, what kind of a student were you? Like, were you an all A student? Were you one of those students that never got in trouble? Or were you one of those that, the teacher was always writing bad things about you? You were getting those phone calls at home, maybe you didn't do so well in the classroom. Like, tell me a little bit about that, as well as like, what kind of jobs did you have prior to being a CPA?
Yeah. So, no, to answer your question, I was never the best student. I started out in public school in Lansing, Michigan. That's where I was born. And, I guess I was kind of a bad kid. I kind of got into trouble a little bit. So, my dad said, no, you're going to private school. So he sent me to private school. And, I quickly learned that, it's actually even easier to get into trouble at private school than it is at public school. But somehow I made it. I finished 8th grade, and then we moved over here to Texas. And I think my dad, he used to tell me, you're very smart. He used to tell me this, but you just don't apply yourself in school. And it's funny, now I have kids. I have a 12-year-old and a 15-year-old, and I tell them the same things. I see myself in them. Quick story I'll share with you. My basketball coach in high school is now coaching my son, who's 12 years old. And I had a conversation with him yesterday, in fact, and he was just telling me how much he reminds me of myself.
That's incredible.
Just the good and the bad,
Sure.
Personalities, but also, he kind of has the same issues where, he's very smart, but it's hard to stay focused, especially at that age. In class, you want to mess around with your friends and stuff. But I wasn't a bad kid. I don't think. I just, I don't know. I think my thing is, and my wife will tell you this as well. When she first met me, she said, I knew that you were not meant to work for somebody else. You were meant to be your own boss. I always kind of had that mindset, like, no, you can't tell me what to do, kind of thing. And, starting off, after, I finished high school, finished college, I started working, I went kind of from job to job for a while. And I was never really happy, of course, I started working when I was 16. I worked in all kinds of different jobs. I mean, fast food, and I worked at a call center. I mean, I lasted for like a month because I didn't want to follow the script, so they could let me go, that kind of thing. But yeah, I think I just kind of always knew what I wanted to do. Once I figured out, hey, accounting, taxes, this is something I can be good at. But I don't want to put money in other people's pockets. I don't want to be, working 70, 80 hours a week. Just so, these other people can make more money off me. I want to do this for myself.
Sure.
So, I started my own business in 2014, and this will be my 10th tax season on my own. So
very cool.
It's crazy to think about that, but
it is, man. Sometimes life takes us in directions that we could have never imagined
Exactly.
Growing up. You know what I mean? If somebody would have said, hey, man, could you see yourself being a CPA as an adult? You probably would have said, no, there's just no way. A lot of people I talk to tell me that, others, it's a little bit more clear cut, but for the most part, I think people just, you have ideas in your mind, but they end up kind of going in a different direction. And a lot of times it's not the direction that you had intended or planned in your mind. So that's really cool stuff, though. Thank you for sharing that, man. And thank you for sharing that story. What about this, Marco? What do you think it was that actually inspired you to like, I guess you could say maybe officially make that decision that, okay, this is the route I'm going to go. I'm going to go ahead and, because you said you were going more of a kinesiology type of a thing, right?
Right.
What was it that actually, what do you think it was that kind of moved you over to like, you know what? I think I'm going to do the bookkeeper or the CPA route.
Yeah. Actually, once I kind of realized that kinesiology was not going to be the direction I wanted to go in, I switched gears over to general business. And, when you're in school and, when you're a business major, you have to take finance, you have to take marketing, you have to take accounting. And I took a tax class. I remember this, once I kind of got on that accounting track, I took this tax class, and I kind of was looking around the classroom one day at the other students, and I thought to myself, they're not very engaged. They're not very into this. They're only here because they need to get a degree, and this is a required course to get that degree. But I was interested in it, and I kind of thought to myself, well, if I'm the only person in this room that's really interested in this, then that's good for me, because when we're all graduated and we moved on and we're in the working world, you know, a lot of these people are going to be doing, you know, marketing, finance, something other than taxes.
Yeah.
And so I kind of realized it's kind of a unique niche to kind of work in. You know, when I talk to people, you know, taxes, it's like trying to learn Mandarin. It's like trying to learn another language or something. It's like they want nothing to do with it. And I don't blame them, because if I wasn't a CPA, I would want nothing to do with them either. So I think it was probably that tax class that kind of where I kind of, you know, the light bulb kind of went off in my head, and I was like, hey, this is what I need to be doing.
Sure. So what was the reaction that you got from your family and your friends once you started telling them, like, you know what, I think I'm going to go to school to be a CPA? Were they very encouraging and supportive, or did they kind of think you were crazy?
Well, most of my friends were not really studious. I don't think they were really college students so much. I would say my family, you know, I think my dad more than anything was always pushing like education. Like he always told me that from the time I was a little boy, because, you know, that was the key for him, to you know, give us the life that we had growing up. It was education, and so he really pushed that on me a lot. And so I think, you know, I think it was everybody kind of just was kind of like, well, okay, I mean, if that's what you want to do. Everybody thinks of accountants like just kind of boring, kind of like, you know, it's just kind of, you know, bean counters, right? Like
Right.
we just sit around all day and we never, you know, go outside or do anything. We have no lives, kind of thing. But it's really not like that. Not for me anyway. But I don't know. I mean, I surprise myself sometimes, because I'm like, looking at myself from the outside, I don't really fit the profile of an accountant. When you think of you know, I don't know, the calculator and the pocket protector and all that stuff, like
The glasses, the rimmed glasses. Yeah.
Yeah, all that stuff, man. I don't know. I guess, you know, sometimes people, I think, are surprised when they find out what I do, but I don't know, man. I enjoy it, and the opportunities that it's provided for me and my family. I don't think I'll, you know, I think, you know, of course I want to get into other things like, you know, personal investment type things, but I think this is always going to be kind of, you know, my bread and butter.
For sure. For sure. So I want to talk a little bit about, I always like to ask every successful business owner about failure, because as a general rule, it's always going to be part of the equation for success. You got to have those failures first before you typically find success. And that can manifest itself in a variety of different ways. Sometimes it's just being broke, you know, struggling, being tight, rice and beans and rice, you know, peanut butter and jelly sandwiches, whatever, ramen. Other times, though, it can be like the stress that it puts on the family, on the marriage, you know, different things like that. So it can come out in a variety of different ways. My question to you, Marco, is, have you experienced any failure that maybe you now realize has contributed to the success that you have today?
Man, I could write a book just on all my failures alone. I mean, that would be like an encyclopedia. I mean, and that's why I tell my kids, I'm like, look, if you're not failing, you're not trying. You need to fail. You need to go out. You need to make mistakes. You need to screw up. Of course, you don't want to do anything monumental that's going to, like, you know, life-changing type of mistakes, but you kind of have to, you know, you have, it's trial and error, right? That's life. I mean, you just got to go out. And I've made so many mistakes personally, so many mistakes professionally. I mean, you know, as not only as an employee, as a boss, as a husband, as a father, as a son, like, I mean, we're all imperfect, right? But, you know, every time you make a mistake, and it's like they say, there's wins and there's lessons, right? So you just have to learn from it. And I've made some big ones. And like you said, I mean, you know, kind of being, you know, rice and beans and, you know, we've lived like that too, you know, so it's just kind of, you know, it's part of growth, and it's a marathon. That's why I tell my kids, it's a marathon. It's not a sprint, you know, life, you know, everybody wants to, see immediate results and get rich quick. And, it's not like that. It's an everyday grind. Every single day you have to grind. If you want to get better at something, and you're going to have bad days, you're going to have days where you take 2 steps back, but you have to just put that behind you, learn from it, move on, because there's always tomorrow. So
exactly.
Absolutely. A lot of failures.
Love it, man. Absolutely love it. Let's fast forward to today. You're in a very different place. You've got a very successful practice. You got a lot of clients under your belt, a lot of experiences, a lot of wisdom. So what's it like being the Marco Flores you are today? What does your practice look like? Maybe you could kind of describe for us a little bit about your current business model, the types of people that you help, and the problems that you solve.
Yeah, so it's really pretty great. I mean, we were talking about this earlier. Right now there's really a shortage of accountants, and so it's really a good time to be an accountant. People really are needing our services more than ever, and a lot of the older CPAs are going into retirement. And even some of the younger ones are switching gears into, IT or finance or whatever. So it's really a good time. As far as my business, we like to work with, other small business owners. I'm a small business owner. I understand the daily struggles of being a small business owner, trying to wear all these different hats. You're trying to do, sales and marketing. You got to make sure the technical work gets done. You gotta be the payroll and the HR. I mean, you got to do so many different things. And so I understand those struggles. And so that's really who I like to work with more than anything. I don't have a lot of, $20 million clients. I mean, most of my clients, their businesses make, probably less than 1 or 2 million a year.
Gotcha.
And so, it sounds like a lot of money to some people, but then when you realize all the expenses that go into running a business, it's like you might be breaking even, you might be losing money.
Right.
And so that's really what I think I'm most passionate about, is just helping people identify those areas. Hey, like, you need to trim some fat here, or identifying areas where, okay, you're making more money off of this versus that, things like that. So to really help people grow, because my experience as a business owner, it's ups and downs, right? It's just like life. So just navigating all those ups and downs, it's all good experience. And so I want to share that with people.
Definitely, man. That's awesome, dude. I love that, man. And I really appreciate you sharing all those things. As we get close to wrapping up here, I just have a couple of final questions for you. I want to know also, what does Marco Flores do when he's not working? What does your recharge from business time look like? What are your hobbies? And then who do you spend your non-business time with?
Just my family, and maybe, a few close friends. I mean, I don't have a big circle, to be honest with you. I work a lot. I mean, in year round, not just during tax season, running a business, you know how it is, man. I mean, evenings, sometimes weekends. I mean, but, I always make it a priority. Both of my kids are really into basketball. So, I try not to miss any games. If they got stuff going on at school, if I can be there, I'll try to be there, and I try to, I can't spread myself too thin, obviously, but, I'm kind of just a homebody, to be honest with you. I don't really need to be going out a lot, like when we were younger, right? I mean, we have our families, and, we just want to spend time with them. And so I just kind of like to just relax and, just watch movies and stuff, go out to dinner. But I don't live a glamorous, flashy life. I mean, you know how it is, man. You're married to these businesses. We don't take extravagant vacations. But just that family time, the kids grow up fast. You know how it is, man. Like, you gotta enjoy them while they're young.
100%, man. Yeah, it's just those simple things, right? Just eating dinner together at home, watch a movie, sit on the couch, play a video game or two together.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's really cool, especially when you're considering how much we have going on in our lives as small business owners. Because our businesses are very demanding, but so are our obligations as husband and fathers. So
and we have to decompress too, you know, like
we
we
do.
need that decompression. We can't we get burned out, you know.
That's right.
Some days it's like, no, I just need to take a day off or something, and that happens. But
That's right. But I think the best part about being self-employed is that, you know what, man, today I'm taking the boys, in your case, I'm taking the boys to the movies, man. Let's just go. We're going to cut out today. You know, you get to do those things on the fly. Whereas if you were a 9-to-5er, man, it would be impossible, or you'd have to lie and say you were sick, or,
exactly.
you know, you go through all kinds of stuff just to be able to do something like that. And so for me, I think you probably feel the same way, Marco. I mean, that's priceless. It's really priceless.
I might wake up tomorrow and say, hey, Marco, let's go smoke some cigars, you know, like you just get that itch and you're like,
I'm not going to turn you down, bro.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Like, clear your calendar.
Okay, bro. Well, we're almost done. I got one last question for you. And that is, if you could go back in time and give the pre-successful version of yourself one piece of advice, what would that be?
Wow. Man, I would say, you know, if anything, I should have done this sooner, you know. I don't know. I mean, God has a plan for all of us, you know, and sometimes I think, well, I should have started my business earlier, maybe, but more than anything, you know, just, you know, be good and appreciate the people who are in your life, who are by your side. Don't ever take them for granted. And just, you know, stay focused. You know, don't get sidetracked by, you know, stupid things that are not going to help you. They're not going to be good for you or your family. So much, man. I mean, so much, you know, hindsight's 20/20, right? So you look back and you're like, man, that was stupid, or man, I shouldn't have done that. But in that moment, you didn't know.
Right.
And that's life. Like we were talking about earlier, you have to make those mistakes. That's how you grow.
That's right. They're painful. They're no fun when you're going through them, but then you realize later, man, dude, that experience really helped shape me. Who, you know, it's a big part of who I am, because I ain't gonna make that mistake again. That's for sure. So
exactly.
Wisdom is a beautiful thing, man. But to get there, you typically have to go through some pretty painful experiences. But as long as we still alive, we can still get up and keep doing what we're doing. Then what do we really have to complain about, man? We're
exactly,
blessed,
man. God is good. God is great.
Fortunate. Amen to that. Marco, how can we find out more about you and your CPA practice and continue to follow your journey?
Well, of course, you can find me on Google. You can find me. You know, we do have an office. You know, we're kind of probably in the next 2 years, we're going to transition into being more of a virtual firm, but we're always going to have that internet presence. I'm always going to make myself available for phone calls and Zoom meetings. And of course, you know, some clients or prospects, they like to meet face to face. You know, I'm always open to those things as well. But, you know, you can go to our website, www.mfcpatx.com. That, you know, I use my website not so much as a marketing tool, but more informational. You know, this is who we are. This is what we do. The best way to get to know somebody, I think, is to do business with them. So if you're thinking about hiring a CPA or switching CPAs for whatever reason, you know, give me a call and we can have a conversation and, you know, you can get to know a little bit more about me and see if it's a good fit. And if it's not, that's okay.
That's awesome, man. Thank you very much for everything that you shared today. I really personally enjoyed hearing about you and your story and how you came to be where you are today, man. I think it's, like I said, it's very interesting. Everybody's got a different story to tell. Everybody's journey is a little bit different. And yours, I think, is a very interesting one. Cause I mean, I'll be honest, when I saw you, you didn't give me that CPA vibe. You didn't give me that CPA impression. I said, where's a briefcase on the side? Where's the tape on his glasses in the middle and all that kind of stuff? But the world that we're living in today, a lot of those, you know, stereotypes are being broken. We've got people from all different walks of life that are getting into all different types of things. And I think Personally, I think that's better. We have more options. I can feel a little more connected to someone. And they don't feel like they're just so like, you're way over there and I'm way over here. Because all this CPA stuff's already stressful and confusing enough as it is, man. Mm-hmm. I need somebody that can give it to me clear and straight with no BS and no, confusing words. And so I think that's one of the things that you bring to the table. So thank you again very much for your time today on the podcast, Marco. And we really appreciate all the information you shared.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me. It's been fun.
Well, that does it for another episode of Business Innovators Radio. Thank you very much for joining us today, and we will catch you next time.
Thanks for listening to Business Innovators Radio. To hear all episodes featuring leading industry influencers and trendsetters, visit us online at businessinnovatorsradio.com today.